I try to make a video every day, and it's kind of a promise I make to myself to just be a little bit disciplined to do it. And sometimes it's easier than others, and it's got easier with time to just kind of make it a part of my routine. And I think it's kind of helpful to me just as an individual to hear my own self talking. It's like a thinking out loud kind of a thing. It's not necessarily directed at anybody. I appreciate all the folks who do occasionally have something to say and chime in and listen and things. And the whole point of it is to maybe share some thoughts with other people in a way that could be motivational or inspiring or something, and I think a lot of conversations that you can have, it's the ones that don't have any objective. They're just open-ended talks. Like those I know have sometimes helped me. I enjoy them, and so kind of passing that on, it's a thing, like I don't care what people think of what I have to say, one way or the other. But it feels like what is the point of having a journal or something like that if you just keep all of it to yourself? Like you never share your thoughts, you just like put it in a book and put it underneath your mattress or something. Then like what's the point of that? At what point are you going to share this with other people so that they can maybe have your perspectives to enrich their life with too? Whether they agree or not. Sometimes you can also even enrich yourself by disagreeing, right? Like you can be like, hey, I don't agree with that. I think that's, full of crap. But it still gets you thinking. It makes you, see someone else's perspective on life or whatever. Or maybe it's just noise, but it kind of makes you feel a little bit less alone because it's some random internet person that you can talk to. Or maybe not talk to, maybe just, listen to. But we're kind of all in it together, right? Like we're all trying to figure out how to do this thing called life. But I do watch a lot of YouTubers. And actually, I try to cut back on it a little bit just because it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole and watch a lot of YouTube videos, and feels like it's a waste of time sometimes. So I've been trying to watch more movies and stuff and a little bit less of some of the, some of the other things that you can sink your time into, like, scrolling. But anyways, what I wanted to actually talk about was sometimes I watch people's videos and I see people who have stories that look like they could be meaningful, like they're doing okay. And then you come back to their channel. Usually I'll stumble across these sort of people. I'm not really looking for anything, and then I just find somebody's channel. And I look at the video that they've made, and then I realize, that video was like 10 years old or something. Maybe even more, maybe 15 years old. Like, you look at somebody's video and you're like, oh, they haven't, they haven't made anything for a while. And then they, the channel goes silent. If you look at the history of their videos, you see the channel went silent. And then you see maybe they came back, and the tone and texture of their videos is different than it was. Like you can kind of tell their life hasn't really gone very well. And that's kind of a sad thing when you look at this sort of really a chronology of somebody's life, and you see that they kind of slowly evolved from a person who was maybe struggling but doing okay to a person who kind of lost their way in life. Maybe they gave in to some sort of addiction, or they got themselves into trouble, or they fell on hard times financially or physically or something. So I think there's something really therapeutic about just being consistent, being that that light in the darkness, if you will. You know, like, you know, my life is not anything wildly extraordinary. You know, it's not like I have anything incredible to brag about, but I have a pretty consistent life. Like, every day is generally filled with some degree of peace, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for good health. I'm thankful for the opportunity to, you know, experience life and think about all sorts of different things, and to do it with a clear mind, without any sort of, you know, demons haunting me, if you will. And I do want to just be there for other people, you know, even if it's just somebody who, you know, comes back once in a while, just to kind of see what's new. It's nice to just be there. And it's not about doing anything. It's just about the presence, you know. And then I think about how sometimes if you have the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives and you go silent, you know, maybe it's not your story that's a sad story. Maybe you just get busy with life. You're doing other things, you know, like, I don't know, somebody has a family, they have a kid, and then after a while, like, gaming videos stopped being a thing that they did, you know. And to that, as a side note, I'd just say, like, you don't have to stop doing something like making content just because you have a family or something like that. Like, yeah, you could easily say so, but you know what? Like, how much time does it take for me to turn on the camera and make a video? What, 10 minutes? However long I talk? Like, it's not hard. You can make a video in your car. You can make a video in the park. You can get up early and make a video at the beginning of your day, or late at night after the rest of the family went to bed, or, like, I don't know, like, whatever it is. There's always something you can do. Like, there's no one's too busy to make a little bit of time in their life for some gaming, or to, you know, go make a video or something to share a little bit about their thoughts on life. But we do have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives in just a small, inconsequential way. And you can be the difference between a person who winds up being okay in life and a person who maybe once seemed like they were showing promise, and then they lost their way and they went into a dark place. And if you can be that person, you know, that's huge, even if it's just for one person. I always remember this Asmongold video. He was talking about how somebody had said, you know, they were in like an abusive relationship, this woman in an abusive relationship, and she said, my boyfriend at the time would beat me and stuff, and we'd fight or whatever, but she said he would have the Asmongold videos playing and he would watch them, and she was like, I would focus on that. It kind of took me out of this bad situation I was in. Like, and that's not one way or another. It's just, you know, it was a thing, right? It was something outside of the terrible things going on in that room, in that space, that gave her a little bit of hope that there's something beyond, you know. There's another YouTuber, streamer in the MMO space named Zepla, who I like, and I followed her for quite a while, and she made content for Final Fantasy 14. Lately it's been more WoW stuff and some Guild Wars 2 content, but I remember she made a video a while ago about like toxic relationships and things like that, like the importance of not being, you know, allowing yourself to be in those kinds of situations. And like, those are the kinds of things, like, you go on YouTube and you're looking for a video about like gaming or something, and then you encounter a video that's just like a real person talking about real life stuff. And then, you know, maybe it can be a light in the darkness. It can be something that's a little bit more than just gaming content or whatever it is you were looking for. So that's kind of why I believe in doing it. In addition, that's just a selfish thing I do for myself, just to kind of vlog by journaling out loud, I guess, like thinking about things and talking about them in a way that kind of gives me a chance to reflect in a more dynamic way. But sharing thoughts with others, it's important. And sometimes just being there consistently and not being a person who's there for a little while and then disappearing, it can be more meaningful than you would think. Like you don't realize how much of a difference it can make in a person's life to just be there. And oftentimes we look and we think about the scale of what we're able to do, and we say, well, I'm not, like Mr. Beast with however many million subscribers he has, right? I wouldn't probably want to be anyway, but you can look at your scale and the scope of what you're doing and be like, well, I'm not really doing much. But if you can just make a positive difference in, one person's day or one person's life, that's really enough. Like it doesn't have to be that you like change the world for everybody or, made it to the front page of a newspaper or something, right? Like it's okay to just be there, have time for people, be real with people, and it can make more of a difference than you'd realize. It's like that parable of the talents, like if you say, well, I didn't have very much, so I didn't do anything with my life at all, right? Sometimes it's important to just be consistent with the little things, and then your life will maybe lead to something valuable. Maybe you'll do something that's helpful to somebody. And it's not about doing a lot. It's just about doing a little bit in a way that is caring and loving and empathetic, and doing it every day. And oftentimes people are able to find their way without needing someone else to fix their problems for them. It's just people need to feel like they're not alone. And when people feel like they're not alone, then they're able to maybe find strength they didn't know they had, to not give up. There's definitely something to be said for how dangerous it is to feel alone. Because if you feel like you're alone, if you feel like you're an island, if you feel like there's not any reason for you to strive to be the best version of yourself, then you can wind up in a situation where, you give up, right? Like, I'm sure we've all been there on some level, like maybe not on some epic scale, but, like if you're not expecting any company, like you're more likely to not wash your dishes, right? Like if you're not going anywhere, you're more likely to like waste time because, like, have you ever experienced that? You go on vacation, you think, oh, I'm going to have like 2 weeks off. And then the weird thing is it feels like you got about as much done in 2 weeks as you would have normally gotten done on one weekend. You're like, shoot, where did all that time go again? Like what was I even doing, And yeah, so sometimes it's important to just let people know that they are not alone. And when people know that there is hope, they can sometimes go in the direction of the light instead of allowing themselves to get lost. Anyways, wherever you find yourself, if you feel alone, remember that you're not. If you feel like you are hopeless, remember that there is always more hope than you realize, and it's probably closer than you think is possible. I certainly think about that often when I realize how many times in my life I've had maybe not great odds. Maybe there was a pretty decent chance that things wouldn't work out. And then when I look back over my life, I see a lot of grace. I see a lot of redemption. I see a lot of hope that I didn't even know existed at the time. And I'm grateful to the people who were ambassadors and, faithful to me, even when I wasn't necessarily doing all the right things myself, or when I didn't have a lot of faith or hope personally. They had a certain degree of confidence that they were willing to place in me, and that's special when people do that, and it's something you remember for the rest of your life. So try to be an ambassador to others, and sometimes that's also one of the best ways to help yourself. When you try to help others, often it does come back to you. So if you're not quite sure what to do, well, be consistent. Keep on showing up. Keep on logging in. Keep on coming back. Keep on, making one more video, going to work for one more shift, touching base with your friends one more time, whatever it is. Like, just keep the light alive. Don't let yourself be that person who logs off for the last time and then disappears into the abyss, never to be heard from again. Because you never know. Sometimes making yourself available might be helpful to the journey of another adventurer who would otherwise give up hope and grow faint of heart. As always, wherever you find yourself in life, best wishes for you on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.